All right, you guys, we're gonna talk about brass today. Brassy, brassy, brassy. How many of you are so sick of hearing the word brassy? So when it comes to brass, when it comes to ash, these are just descriptions that we use, that clients use, and the struggle of it is actually understanding what they see and determining if it is like the actual color that they're hating or something else. So if they're saying, I see red, I don't want to see red, you know, it looks copper, I don't want to see copper, then they're seeing red, they're seeing copper. We need to figure out why they're seeing that. Typically what I find is when this happens, it's usually on my brunettes that come to see us. They're looking for a color correction. They started to go white a little early, prematurely. They had some whites, and instead of the colorist just staining those few whites, they took them into the permanent hair color world. And permanent hair color lives at a higher alkalinity than demi-permanent. Both are permanent hair color. Both are permanent hair color. I can't say it enough. They have different alkalinities. And permanent hair color lives at a higher alkalinity, so it's going to lift the natural level more. So when it lifts the natural level more, and law of color will tell us when we are lifting our brunettes, they're gonna get warm. Our contributing pigment is warm. Every chart may say something different, so we don't need to get into the discussion of if it's blue, violet, then it goes into red. That actually doesn't matter, because what we see, what is exposed, and what's typically coming back to us is what they're saying is brassy. And typically that is red or that is copper. And if that's the case, you're probably living somewhere around this area. So you're probably living maybe with an undertone of 3, 4, or 5. If you're looking really copper gold, you might be in the 6, 7s, you know, it all depends. So that's typically what's happening. So say this is your client, she came into you, this actually happened to me recently, and she doesn't have that many white hairs, but she does have probably a natural level, I would say 2, maybe a 3, but she's dark. So she lives really dark. She's been getting permanent hair color for a while, and her hair colorist has been using definitely some sort of permanent dye that's making her somewhere around this like red-orange color. So at the red-orange color that I see on my charts, both of them I would say live right around a level 4. So she is naturally a 2, but she is living at a level 4, only it's really warm. And why is it really warm? Well, because let's just call it a red-orange. It could be considered just red in some people's books too. So again, every chart is going to say something different, and this is where the confusion always gets into play. Since we teach non-branded, I like to stay open-minded when it comes to these things so that you guys can really take this information back and work it into your specific color line. So let's call it red-orange, because really she was like red-orange when she came to see me. And it definitely looked on the copper side of red to me. It wasn't like a true red. And when it comes to formulating, I actually took her from permanent into the demi-permanent world because I wanted to stop exposing more red than I needed to. And when I'm lifting her at all, I'm gonna be exposing a lot of red at a level 2. So when I formulate it for a demi-permanent color, I always give I always give people the spiel of once it's colored, it's always gonna be colored. So everything from your new growth down has now been permanently altered. And that copper and that red will always come back and it will always be there. The things that we want to do to help it grow out gracefully is to add dimension. So then I get into dimension and I add more dimension in the hair softly with my creams that are not as dark as her natural level. So I'm gonna take a demi-permanent cream on her base color, and I'm gonna take 2 to 3 different lowlights of demi cream on like all through the hair, either freehand low lighting, what I would call reverse balayaging, or putting in a foil in different variations of different weaves. And that's to really bring up the lines that are usually going on in someone's hair, because I want to create movement and dimension and still have light and reflection. The number one question to ask is, do you like to see dimension? Do you want to see dimension? Do you want to see light and movement? And if they do, then that to me means that they are still wanting some warmth in there. We just have the wrong color. We just have to refine this now. So what am I going to use? How am I going to make sure I cover those whites? Well, remember, demi-permanent is permanent. So since demi-permanent is permanent, then what we're going to use is something to stain the white hair. So for me, I know that she looks really nice with a lighter brown shade, but I want to make it more neutral than what is going on right now, which is this red-orange undertone. So she's this because she's been exposed to alkaline in the product too many times, but we want to be more like this. So, after I just covered up my wheel. So what lives across a red-orange? What lives across red-orange? Well, the opposite of red is green. The opposite of orange is blue. So I know to completely neutralize through the red-orange, I need a blue-green. And if I'm looking to not bring her all the way to neutral and gray, and I want to keep her more in the brown family, I may do, actually, what I would do is something that has warmth in it still. And I just want to refine the color. So I wouldn't take her all the way to a blue-green. I think that would be too strong for her. But I might do something with the blue. And the blue would just be one part of that versus pulling her all the way in. So that's going to just take her closer, but it's not going to pull her to gray. It's going to create more of a brown. And that's the goal. And then I'm going to create more of a golden brown. So since I have red-orange, and I want to create more of a golden, and I want to refine it ever so slightly, then instead of blue, I'm going to use a blue-violet to soften ever so slightly. And so blue-violet is 1 part blue, and then violet is 1 part blue, 2 parts red. So this is our formula. So this is going to give me 2 different variations of brown. So I'm looking for a blue-violet, or I'm creating 2 parts blue to 1 part red in my formula. This is for deposit only. All right, I hope that's making sense to you. And these are low lights. for dimension on someone that's brown, and this is just a case scenario that happens a lot. And then what am I going to use on those pesky little white hairs? Well, I'm going to tell her that I'm switching her to demi-permanent cream color, and what that means, it is permanent hair color at a lower alkalinity, which means less brassy results. If we do not get full coverage, we will figure out what we need to do from here. But trust me, trust the process, and let's try something different, since what you were doing is no longer working or was never working. So what am I gonna do on her new growth / pesky whites? Well, I'm actually not gonna cover all her new growth. I'm gonna start to let her natural work in and grow in, and explain to her that where she's only white, let's say she only had a few whites here and a few whites around her hairline here, which is typically the case, I find, and people start to put permanent everywhere, but sometimes you just need some demi here and here, maybe up here, but then you're not exposing everything to that extra alkalinity and then pulling the hair more red than needed. So remember, the lifting part does not come from just our developer, it is coming from our permanent hair color, and permanent hair color goes at a higher alkalinity than our demi-permanent hair color. We get amazing great results with demi-permanent color. We use cream for more of an opaque finish, and we use liquid for more of a reflection and translucent finish. Now, get to know your own color lines. Some color lines live at a higher alkaline state that are liquids than others, so just warning. So on the whites, what am I going to use? I'm going to use a level 4, maybe a level 5, depending on how fine her hair is. On the hairline, I usually use one level lighter than what I'm going to use everywhere else. So level 4 back, from the hairline back, and then a level 5 I were to use on the hairline. And that ensures me that those baby fine hairs are not going to grab a whole level darker, because usually they do. So I always formulate a little different for different parts of the hair, different porosities, but also different textures. So just a little hot tip for you. And when we're doing this for the level 5 hairline, this is going to just be what I like to do for my whites on new growth, is just neutral. And neutral natural color is going to be different for every color line. Some color lines are warm, some color lines are cool. So just make sure you know your color line, make sure you're testing out everything, make sure you have the backgrounds in the back of your head. I wouldn't use a gray base background because her whites won't cover. So I want to make sure I have a brown background color and not just like a gray background, even though she wants to be cooler. And it's because we need that color in there to actually stain the whites, cover the whites, color the whites, and work. Okay, so brown background, and then just a natural color. I would really truly say brown plus brown. That's what I would be looking for. And for someone that is looking for full coverage, that's usually all it needs. I've sometimes gone into the gold family. Sometimes I'll need to switch them over to permanent. And if I switch them over to permanent, then we have the discussion of it is going to be warmer, but these are things that we can do to help keep it in place. So I hope this helped. I know brunettes can be a struggle. I know the white hairs can be a struggle when our brunettes start to go warm or start to go gray and they don't want to be warm. So let me know what other things you want to learn about and what you've learned in this little segment, and I am looking forward to sharing more with you guys soon. Share this if you learned anything today, and spread the love.